Welcome to Lift History. I am so excited to have Joel Dircks here with me tonight. But before I launch into peppering him with questions about his strongman and his grip career, I would be remiss if I didn't thank tonight's sponsor, Plate Snacks. If you want to customize your gym, if you want to make your gym, then head over to Plate Snacks for custom weight decals and all other kinds of accessories for your home gym. You can save a little bit of money by typing in code VINTAGE at platesnacks.com. Now, Joel, thanks for humoring me there with our sponsor. I appreciate you holding for a sec. How's it going, man?
Good, man. How you doing?
I'm excellent. Before I hit record, I was telling Joel that like he's one of these guys. Maybe the algorithms online just know that like I want to see what you're up to. I don't know, but I feel like everywhere I turn, I'm seeing you. And so either you're doing something cool with, Shaw Classic, or you're doing something cool flipping a plate around. So yeah, it's great to have you on.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Yeah, I've been getting a lot of traction lately, a lot of reposts, stuff like that. So the
Yeah,
last 2-3 years have been awesome.
very cool. So if you don't know, listeners, Joel was an elite strongman. And then correct me if I'm wrong with the little bio here. Then you retired from strongman, but you're still in that world somewhat and you're competing in grip and you have caught in a lot of traction, like you said, for some of the different feats you've been doing, some of the different tricks you've been doing with hubbing specifically.
Yeah.
And is that pretty good rundown there?
Yeah. So the whole strength, my whole strength career started with strongman. And then once that was kind of over for me, I needed something else to kind of stay competitive, stay active. And we always kind of mess with grip stuff after training, after we're done with strongman training. We just mess with different stuff. We do farmer's hold. The buddy I would train with, Dave Austin, he had a blob and 2-inch bells. And so at the time, I had no idea what they were. We would just mess with them, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Very
so
cool.
that's how it kind of started. And I was like, all right, like I can get into this. And
Yeah.
and just the more I did it, I kind of like just became something I would do all the time. And then started into videos and different little tricks with the plates and going from there.
Well, when it comes to strongman, though, I mean, I was digging into, I went to various websites, did a little research, and I'm like, man, I mean, I don't mean this as an insult, but I mean, truth be told, I didn't catch on to you until kind of your grip career. So I had no clue that, I mean, you're right up there competing with Brian Shaw, JF Curran, I mean, Robert Oberst, Mark Felix, Jerry Pritchett, like all these guys that like I've known of for years. And I'm like, holy crap, like Joel was at like all these events, North American Strongest Man, All American Strongest Man. I mean, looking back on it now, is there anything that you really cherish, like any competition that you just really just set you in a good direction or just was very memorable for any reason?
Sure. Like you said, yeah, compete against all those guys. So like my last contest was 2015. So right
Okay.
before like social media was really, really taking off and like people were promoting themselves for different videos on YouTube. So that was just like getting the start of it. So as I was done, that was starting to progress more and more. So I didn't have that social media exposure. Like now there's so many different platforms and a lot more easy access. But like in terms of like special moments, like my first international contest was probably the biggest deal. Like just that whole dream of like, I want to fly to a pro show and get paid and
Yeah.
compete against all these guys you watch on TV. And it was such a wake up call too. Like I was so excited to compete against these guys, so I seen them on TV, and then you go and you kind of get your butt kicked,
Yeah.
and then you realize, okay, like I don't need to be excited anymore about being there. Like I need to show I belong there. So it
There you go.
was it was special in that way. Like I learned so much, but it was also such that first of everything.
That makes sense. And was that the show you're talking about? Was that in Canada, the North American?
Yeah, so it was one of those. It was one of the.
Okay.
It wasn't technically North American Strongest Man, I think that one, but it was just like a one of
Okay.
the series that they held up there where they would have
Gotcha.
ones in like Warwick and
Mhm.
different cities in Quebec.
Very cool. And you're from Minnesota. So recently I listened to you on Shaw Strength podcast. And listeners, you got to check that out. I'll drop a link to the Shaw Strength podcast episode with Joel in the description to this because you go in depth. And I mean, rightly so. You're talking with Brian Shaw. Of course, you're going to talk strongman, and you go in depth into things. And I was fascinated with some of the, local Minnesota kind of training that you hooked up with. I'm blanking on his name, but he took third place at World's Strongest Man. Thank you. Yes. So listeners, head there because some great stories you came out with. But my question for you is something I heard that kind of stuck out to me was you were talking about kind of the difference with training with the implements at his house, and how when you were training, up until then, you'd show up to a strongman show and like, all right, contest, and okay, try this for the first time because you're just at some gym. But now you actually had like Atlas stones and all these things. Well, now let's fast forward. What's your opinion with grip competitions and having the right implement to train with? So like King Kong's coming up at the end of October, how important is it to have the specific implement? Should athletes go out there and buy it? Or if you're training thick handle and you're training hubbing and you're training this, should you be all right?
So funny you say that because like my first King Kong, I just showed up. I had no idea what the events were. Yeah. Showed up at Alan Heineke's. I found it on like the website or whatever, the grip board or whatever, and just showed up and did pretty good. But obviously, if you want to be obviously do better, you have to have these implements because they are so different. There's a thick handle, there's a pinch, there's so much different one-handed grip stuff that it's super important to have these implements. What's nice is for the most part, a lot of them are pretty cheap. And my opinion, I think the Crusher is a great rolling handle. So it's worth the price to have one.
It's funny you bring that up because my Crusher, I have a 2 1/4 Crusher, and it's pricey compared to other implements, but it's one of those implements that I think, oh man, this thing could go through like World War III. Like it is such a well-made piece of equipment. So I hope Fat Bastard Barbell Company is who makes that, listeners. And if you haven't checked them out, it's kind of like going in a time machine when you try to purchase something. Like it feels a little bit like outdated because you got to like contact them via email and then do this and then do that. So I hope Fat Bastard Barbell Company kind of gets up to speed with a Shopify website or something like that. But man, do they make great stuff. I have a grab hold, a bunch of stuff from them that I love. The jug obviously is coming up. So when it comes to these different implements that we're mentioning, you certainly post videos of them and whatnot. But if I was hard pressed to just ask someone, hey, what have you seen Joel do? It would be hubbing a plate. So I'm the vintage weights guy. I love deep dish plates. I'm surrounded right now in my gym by deep dish plates. I seemingly can't get enough. I'm always scheming like, all right, where can I put another post and just kind of swap them out? And for listeners that may not know, it's been going on for years. I mean, I have pictures of John Grimmick hubbing plates. I could name people left and right from the York gang that were hubbing plates and in Strength and Health and various other people. So grabbing a plate and picking it up by the center hub isn't anything new, but some of the stuff you're doing with it is pretty cool. You're putting it on a barbell, you're flipping it up in the air and catching it. When was the first time you hubbed a plate? When can you remember that? Like what was the plate? When was the first time?
Yeah. So when I was training strongman at Dave Austin's, he had just regular standard plates with the deep dish standards, like a Avanco knockoffs or whatever they are. Yeah. And just, I was we would pick them up on the hub and we try catching it and just, it kind of fall from there. And so, and I think what the biggest thing is people can relate because they have a plate. They can go and try it. No, not everyone has a 2.25 Crusher to go see what they can do versus you. But they have a plate where they can go and they can correlate to how hard it is, the difficulty level.
That's a great point because in the history of strongman, even old time strongman, it was about relatable odd objects. If Arthur Saxon picked up this big board over his head, well, people knew that a piece of timber weighed a lot. So that was amazing. Or if they picked up a horse, like Eugene Sandow walked across the stage with a pony, they knew, holy crap, he's carrying a horse. So I've wondered that about grip competitions that, it's not quite a spectator sport just yet. But some of that might be that, and I don't have an immense experience yet. I've only competed 3 times. King Kong will be my 4th competition. But I've thought to myself, there's certain events that I bet if you strung together a competition like with hubbing, deep dish, things that someone could imagine maybe it would attract some more attention. So when it comes to the Shaw Classic, you were involved with that. So did planning some of the grip related competitions with the Shaw Classic this past year, what went into the planning? Could you tell a little bit about, I mean, you've known Brian Shaw for over a decade, so I assume being friends help, but just in terms of the development of those events, could you speak to that?
Sure. So it's just kind of us is talking about like, what else can we do at the Shot Classic? What can we implement? What can we do between the downtime events? Because you have a live stream, you have a live audience. So to just sit there 10, 20, 30 minutes between events is tough, and so how do we fill that time? And of course, I'm going to say, well, let's put in some grip events. And so this year we just started small. First year, obviously not really a budget, just trying to make things happen, coming together. Obviously, the first thing we thought of, obviously, is his blob medley, because people can relate to it because they see it in his videos, right? So
Sure.
a lot of people comment like, this person should try it, this person should try it. So this way we gave an opportunity for people to try it that are very good at gripping. And then second, we had talking to Nathan Hawley about getting a whole set of inch replica dumbbells of various sizes, weights, but all 2 and 3/8 handles made. And once that came to light, then we're like, well, we're going to do a one-hand deadlift medley with those. And obviously, I think our progression from there is to try to do like a 4 to 5 event contest, at least 4 events, maybe next year down the road. But at least we had these 2 events this first time to kind of get things going, see what the interest is like, see what, how the kind of response back was. So,
I mean, that's a great point about just the live stream and some downtime, because like the Rogue Invitational, for example, once they started doing a bunch of those record breakers, like in between the main events, suddenly I found myself streaming like all day. I had it going all day because I'm like, oh, cool. Like this thing's coming up next. I want to see like if someone can lift the Denny Stones or whatever. So that makes a lot of sense. And I think those implements too, there's such a history to the Thomas Inch dumbbell. So those replicas and Nathan Hawley, I've had the chance, thanks to Chaz Strange, to mess around with some of his dumbbells, Nathan Hawley's, and they're so well made. And so yeah, that I think is very cool. Now, when it comes to Denny Stones, though, the last I checked, are the golden potato deadlift record holder. Is that still standing, or is someone taking your golden potato record from you?
I still got that one. So we did a golden championship, and I did a little bit over the previous record I had. But with that implement, like it's like a perfect size for my hand.
Yeah.
Like my finger length isn't super crazy, so it fits very well in my hand. Versus if you have a really long thumb or long fingers, the golden potato can be more difficult. Or obviously the other way around if it's too short.
Yeah, the 2 little stoppers on the bottom I find are interesting because my hands, I can get kind of almost to them. But then I think too, maybe I'm just insane, but are the potatoes slightly different from each other?
So there's like a left and a right, or like
yeah, exactly.
So one is a little bit smaller, I believe, than the other. Because they do a Denny lift with it as well.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. So your record, is it just in front of you deadlifting simultaneous, or is it Denny style, like one hand behind you, one in front?
So I have just the one hand deadlift record, and then I'm like in like the Denny, which you can do whichever way. Front.
Yeah.
I did them on the side, or like in the side. I kind of do like a split stance, like a Jefferson type deadlift.
And listeners, if you don't know, Couch Potato Strong makes I should say farms, by the legend of them, the golden potatoes. This is one of them. And I think it's a cool implement. After Kong, I plan to train on my golden potatoes and on my Jokabug implements that I have. So that's like kind of in the back of my mind, like, all right, I'm training for Kong, but then after that, I'm going to go to these guys. So how did you, Couch Potato Strong, I think he's out your way, right? Minnesota?
He's in Washington.
Oh, okay. See, I'm in Pittsburgh. So to me, like anything out there in the West, you might as well be neighbors. Like, I don't know. So is that how did you find out about the golden potatoes even get involved?
So it was just another guy posting on Instagram. I seen him do it. And what's so cool about them is they're cheap. They're like $30 or $40 free. You get two of them, and so it's
Yeah.
like 30 or 40 bucks. It's like let's try it out. And then for whatever reason, my hand just fits perfectly in it, and so
Well, that's where I think there you hit the nail on the head. That's why I got them too, because when I was starting out, getting a little more serious in grip, I've been just at the end of like my normal training, I would just mess around, kind of like you said. But then I started getting more serious about it, and someone said to me, "Oh, well, here, these are only $30, and you can do a ton of different things with them." And I'm like,
right.
"Oh, all right, pretty good." But if you go to Couch Potato Strong, I'm not going to repeat the legend of them because I don't think I can do it justice. But you can read the legend of them, listeners, at couchpotatostrong.com, the golden potatoes, and maybe even get yourself a pair of the spuds. They're numbered too, which I find entertaining. I've got 175. So anyway, getting away from the golden potatoes, you mentioned how strongman. I saw you dabbled in powerlifting, and you mentioned though strongman was like your first serious pursuit, but that came after college. You played football, you're on track, you're a thrower. But
Yeah.
if you reach like way back before that, I mean, what's like the first time as a kid you remember like lifting weights or trying to be stronger?
So my dad was a volunteer firefighter, and the fire department, they have actually like a pretty decent weight room. And I
Yeah.
remember going there like Saturdays. They would go in there. The guys would hang out, like working on the fire trucks and have donuts and stuff like that. Me and my brother would go in the weight room. There's no one in there, and I remember trying to bench the bar at probably like 7, 8 years old, and I couldn't bench the bar, and he had to like pick it up off me, and so it started from there.
Nice. Yeah, it's for anyone who's into vintage weights or trying to find them, the pro tip on that, fire departments, oh my gosh, when they get some money and they redo their weight room, sometimes they have like the best vintage weights coming out, deep dish,
Right.
you name it, round heads, globes. And I've known more than one collector that has just like cold called local fire departments and said like, "Hey, do you want some new weights? I'll buy you a brand new 300-pound set for those. I'll get rid of those old rusty ones for you."
Right.
So I'm not saying to rip off your local fire department, but if they are generally, selling off what they have, it's a good place because they always have a nice setup, seemingly. Um, yeah, I'm not going to name them, but I can think of a couple right now who have benefited from fire departments. So that's pretty cool. So then from there, am I correct to assume, just playing conventional sports, football, things like that got you in the weight room?
Right. So then just doing football, track, I did hockey in high school as well.
Okay.
And then we were just always in the weight room since probably ninth grade, getting
Okay.
pretty out of 10th grade.
So then to the best of my, research on your background, immediately I thought, oh, he was in strongman and he was a thrower. He's had to have competed in Highland Games. Have you ever?
I haven't. I went and messed
Okay.
with it a little bit with the buddy, um, but I haven't. I would like to do it, but like there's so much stuff going on
Oh
right now
yeah.
in a good way with putting on contests and different stuff. I just haven't. And I think that there is like one local show I could try to go do, but I
Okay.
just haven't yet.
Just haven't gotten to it. I like that you say not yet though.
Yeah.
You're not ruling it out. Like, hey,
Yeah.
maybe it'll come down the pipe. Because yeah, on my other podcast, Home Gym History, I've spoken with Richard Sorin, I've spoken with Matt Vincent, and those guys all kind of took that track and field, knowledge along with weightlifting and succeeded in Highland Games and kind of took that track. So I thought, oh, this is you got the resume,
Yeah.
you're ready. So, and I bet you some of the grip stuff would come in handy too. You got to hold on to that caber before you throw it the telephone pole. So, but as far as some of your goals and things like that are concerned, what I mean, Kong's coming up. You placed well last year, 14th overall, I think, and I think you'd want to improve on that and you want to go on. But is there any competitions or feats of strength or any type of grip related goals that you have in mind?
Well, this is exciting news. So I took a new job, and I'll be working full time with Brian Shaw. So
Nice.
I am essentially going to move down there
Okay.
for the most part, be there Monday through Friday, working with him, doing all things Shaw Strength, whether it's doing videos, helping with the company side of it with the evolution athletics, on defined nutrition. So a lot of moving parts with that, taking a lot of load off of him and Kerry. So my plan was to put on King Kong and maybe, but now that's kind of out of the picture.
Gotcha.
Right now. So the big things going on right now is going to be doing a lot more stuff with him.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of more grip stuff with him. Now he's got more time. So the sky's kind of the limit when I have him and access to everything he's got access to.
Yeah, my goodness. I mean, that opens up a whole can of worms of things that just popped in my head like, oh wow, now you know, you're not just visiting. This isn't stopping by. Now you're going to be entrenched in that gym of his and some of the, I mean, amazing weights he has. You know, he's got the full bun and globe set that he just picked up. He's got deep dish. He's got Paul Anderson's deep dish from the basement. I remember that from Strongest Man in history. So I mean, yeah, he's got a wild collection that you know, I might be one of the few that follow Shaw online, less for his lifts and more to see what he's lifting. So I mean, don't get me wrong, I've been a long time fan and I think he's the greatest in terms of strongman, but being into vintage weights, I also really love that he appreciates them and love to see what he's doing with them.
Yeah.
Is there anything you know, you just named a lot of different roles there. So I mean, I can't imagine what your business card's going to say, but when it comes to these roles, is there something in particular you're excited to like get into?
Man, what can I talk about? I think there's
yeah, don't put yourself in jeopardy here, you know.
New stuff coming with just all the different parts of his company. We have a lot of different ideas, a lot of really cool stuff to get more people involved. Obviously, a lot more video ideas.
Yeah.
But we did one thing I can share is we did while I was there. There's one more video they haven't posted yet. Nice. Where we went and he bought a 350-pound globe dumbbell. I don't know if you've ever seen that one for in Kansas City.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So we went there and we tried to lift it. So people have to watch hopefully next week.
Cool.
And see if we're able to kind of get off the ground because Russell said no one's ever moves it off the ground. So it's going to be very cool to see. So now that's at Brian's gym. So now we can mess with it more and do some different things with it.
Well, you've also visited Richard Sorin at Sorinex, and I remember thinking like, oh, that's so cool. I mean, the inventor of the blob. It doesn't get much better than Richard Sorin when it comes to grip. So, well, I shouldn't say it. There's a lot of icons of grip and legends of grip, but he's one of them. That's for sure. So any chance you're going to get Shaw to visit Sorinex and take a look around? Because it seems like at their headquarters, they have an amazing museum. It seems like it'd be a good time for him.
Yeah, we have a lot of different ideas. I think it'd be really cool to obviously go to Sorinex, go to York Barbell.
Thank you for watching Vintage Weights PGH. Please support the channel by purchasing apparel through the link in the description or at www.vintageweightspgh.com. Old weights, new gains, and lift history shirts are printed on high-quality next-level t-shirts, and they are available in multiple sizes and color options. Thank you for supporting the channel.
I was just at York Barbell, and I mean, it's a double-edged sword. I mean, I won't relive my whole visit there because viewers, you can watch my visit. I have it posted on my YouTube account. But it was like, on one hand, amazing. They have such a cool collection, and they were so gracious. Like the gentleman that took me around, like immediately came out in the parking lot. Like my buddy and I, we were like swapping some weights and stuff that we were trading each other, and he saw us through his window and came out and talked to us like, hey, you know, what are you guys doing? And we thought we were in trouble. We're like, oh, we're just switching some weights. Like, no big deal. He's like, no, I know. Like, can I see him? Is that a York globe? Like, and I was like, yeah, sure. So then he saw the stuff we were trading each other, and we said, hey, we're coming in. He said, okay, cool. Like, I'll give you a tour. We're like, all right, yeah. So he was great. Took us all over. But the double-edged sword side of it is, it's almost like time stopped in 2001. Like, it just, everything just kind of stops. Like the Hall of Fame entries stop in 2001, like everything stops. So for whatever reason, I don't know, it's way above the gentleman that took me around pay grade, but whatever reason, the funding stopped or something stopped. So it's in dire need of being updated is the best way I'd say. So still well worth the trip and such amazing strength history, but the stuff they just have in storage, is amazing too, that we were blessed to see. But I immediately thought, oh my gosh, this is like sitting in storage. Like, and the only reason why is that they just don't have the funding or manpower to get it on display.
Right. Yeah. So that's what's so cool about Sornex.
Yeah.
Everything is and
Yeah.
like I just kind of got into vintage stuff, so I knew what stuff was and just learned the value of some of the stuff. And like my mind was blown. Like, oh my gosh, like you don't see this stuff. He's got, the Zuber 200s. I think there's only like maybe one or two other pairs in existence. All the different Jackson's plates and the globes. Unbelievable, the collection.
Richard's been collecting before many people were. So yeah, he has his original Jackson set that he bought as a kid, or as his father and mother bought him as a kid.
Yeah.
He still has it. And he used to do his birthday 500-pound deadlift with it. So, I mean, crazy. So I love that video though of you hubbing York deep dish with Richard that you posted. That was really cool.
Yeah, so he hasn't really seen people hub those much, and then I did like a from the lip, flipped it up and caught it, and it was so special. Smile on his face, like the excitement. He truly understands the difficulty of it. Versus, I don't know if anyone's ever done it, but to do that there for him, to show him like what I'm able to do was I don't know, can't put it into words.
Yeah, I think so, but I mean, I think nationwide, there's this growing kind of community of vintage weights collectors, or at least people interested. And I mention it all the time that you don't have to like fill your garage gym or home gym with vintage weights. You can just have like some cool dumbbells and then the rest be all new stuff. But when it comes to that, what was your quest like to round up everything you needed for the Shaw Classic? Because I love the hunt. I love being, on the chase, on the hunt for certain vintage weights. Some people don't. I love it. What was it like for you?
Sure. No, I'm in the same boat, man. I love that. Almost like kind of like a picker, like you're out there to search for. I was lucky. There was a couple guys, like you said, Zach Mullins and Chad Strange. They both were super helpful with piecing together all these different legacy blobs that we were missing. Because I think Brian's, it went from just a half a roundhead 100 to a 130 Blobzilla. So there was a big gap.
That's a big gap. Yeah.
Yeah, a huge gap. And so able to track down all those. I think almost all of them were from those two guys. And then maybe
cool.
Which I can't remember who exactly, but they helped with like one or two of them. Where we struggled to find the 135. We got all of them, but the half of 135 was like the most difficult one to track down for whatever reason.
Yeah, I mean, in my own gym, I've been hunting for an 85 for longer than it took me to find a Fat Man or anything else. I don't know why, but I cannot find an 85 to save my life.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's caused me to train past it. I'm trying to get a 90 now, and that's kind of where I'm at in terms of my blob training. I've gotten up to comfortably lifting an 80, and now I'm just skipping 85 and training with the 90. But yeah, sometimes there's just that one piece that for whatever reason. But Zach was on my show on Lift History, one of the first episodes. And listeners, if you go back and listen to that, if you didn't listen to that one, he gives such good advice about like alternate kind of ways to train your grip. And like, if you don't want to buy the implement, for example, you only have cash to buy this one and maybe not all the rest. Okay, just do this, this, and this. So he has some cool advice on that episode. So I mean, this is going to change because you just said you're moving, but up until recently, are you sitting in a home gym? Where do you mainly train?
Yeah, so we have like a second garage, like a detached garage out on the property. And eventually I talked my wife into letting me turn it into a gym. And now my parking spot at the house garage, I park outside so I can put the lawnmower, snowblower, all that stuff in there, and then turn this into a gym. And so been lucky, like you said, most of everything in here is pretty new. And then I have some round heads, 1 through 35.
Okay.
And then my big collection is obviously blobs, but to me, like the stuff I really love is all the different deep dish plates I have. The Marcy plates, even the York Millback, the Canadian Bullseye plates. I mean, just different hubs that I have that are really cool and special to me.
Yeah, actually, you're a big inspiration to it. You and Timmy Livingston, He does some crazy hubbing and tricks and stuff. He's riding a skateboard the other day while he's flipping a plate around, and he juggles them through his legs. He does all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But the two of you for sure, and then I'll throw out Clint too. Gosh, what is his handle? I'm blanking right now on his Instagram handle, but Clint, apologies for that. But
Ziegler?
Yeah, there you go. Yes. Lifty Zig, maybe something like that. Well, anyway, regardless, he did something that it blows my mind. He hubbed a Shizzler Eagle head, which I have Shizzler Eagle heads, and they are so slick, the paint. And beyond that, the slope is so like aggressive, I guess I would call it. Like, it just something about the slope. You barely get, it seems like you get like maybe 3/4 an inch of actual straight hub before you start hitting that slope that's pulling your fingers off of it. So when I saw him do it, I immediately grabbed mine to see how hard is that? And it's like, no, that's not even close. Like, he's the only person. Have you ever hubbed an Eagle head?
I've never seen one. The only like cool, like really expensive plate is when we were in Kansas City. We stopped at Aaron Lee's. He's got one of the cross hubs that you were talking about. Like, you have a Gibson.
I do. Well, I'm one to Gibson. I have a Weeder cross hub.
Okay. Yeah, he had a Mars one. So I think all the hubs,
Mars are beautiful. Yeah.
Mars. It was cool. So I seen it. And I was like, right away.
The big letters, they're awesome.
Yeah, because I was like, I gotta hub this, man. Do you care if I get chocolate? Oh no, man, go ahead. So that was super cool, just because I know how expensive and how rare all those cross hubs are.
Yeah.
I had to, man.
Well, it's interesting with the finger placement of things, because with the York being 4 spokes, that I haven't worked up to it yet. I'm rounding the corner on International, the bullseye. I'm good with Marcy. That's like the beginner hubbing plate. And then, because Marcy, for listeners, if you don't know, the classic vintage Marcys have it must be 3 inches across. Like, it's a humongous hub on there, which
doorknob.
Yeah, exactly. So I was able to pick it up the first time I had one. And then Internationals are nice and straight. There's like no slope to them. So that was like my next step. And then I think after that, I'm going to start messing around with these billards that I have that have kind of a slope to try to work up to the York. A friend of mine actually today, Deep Dish Globes on Instagram, he just texted me a video. I hope he doesn't mind me saying this on the podcast, but he out of nowhere, he was like, check this out, I did it. And he was able to hub a York Deep Dish. So it was pretty exciting.
Yeah, because people see the York Deep Dish, the old school ones, and it looks like there's a hub, right?
Yeah.
But like, go to grab it, and that slant is so much, you really don't get much fingers on there. So it's a very difficult hub.
You ever, when you're flipping one, you ever catch a spoke, jam your finger, anything like that?
Not yet.
Okay, well, fingers crossed then.
Yeah.
Let's hope it continues that way.
Okay.
So, other than Eagle heads, any plates that you're on the hunt for that you want to try to hub?
There's some real whatever they are, like the rarest Yorks, where it's like a big round circle.
Oh yeah.
I think plates are like 10 grand a pair, whatever they are. They're so rare. The hub
you're talking about the thick hubs. Yeah. So the thick hubs are extremely rare. There was a pair near me about, I want to say 6-7 months ago, that had been welded. And for the price of them, I was debating, and then someone else took off and bought them. So I ended up not getting them. And I kind of kicked myself. I'm like, man, even though they were like basically one of the hubs had been completely blown out, and then it was welded back on.
Okay.
Over the years. That's why they went to spokes, to the best of my best guess, is that wouldn't happen anymore. But yeah, those thick hubs would be really unique. But I mean, I see you hubbing some shallow ones too, like, milled Yorks, things like that. That's a tough grab. I'm nowhere close to doing that. So how often, with your regular training, let's just say for general health, along with like training for a grip competition, are you just grabbing plates and hubbing them at the end of every training session? Like, how often are you working at it?
Yeah, I'm doing some kind of like different thing for a video, like almost every time I'm out here. So 3-4 times a week, just to mess with, whether it be blobs, plates, by the hub, or trying to pinch two, picking up an inch dumbbell. So every time I'm out here, I'm kind of messing with something. But like, I'll be able to tell, like, my fingers are beat up, or like if you're pinching stuff where it gets, the webbing kind of gets eaten up, like, to stick away from that. So
Yeah.
I'm always kind of messing with something.
Okay. I mean, for me, I haven't done any like specific hub lifting training. It's kind of been at the end of something else I was focusing on. So I was curious if you had like a hub lifting program or something you were on, or no, it's just consistency.
I think it's just like a consistency, that time under attention, just keep messing with it.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, trying to find like a 25 or a 35 that's got a nice hub on it to work your to, because like most of the hub trainers are just circles, right? Like if you were to get a hub, it's a circle. It's not like you say, like a common international hub.
Yeah.
Like it's not the same. So messing with plates that are lighter is probably the go.
No, like my hub trainer from Arm Assassin, or I have like the Iron Mine one. The Iron Mine one's difficult just because it's slick. And if if I manage to get some chalk on it sooner or later, maybe I'll do better on it. But yeah, like the Arm Assassin one with the powder coat, you would think I'd be able to just hub like an insane amount on an actual deep dish, but it doesn't translate. Picking up 70 pounds with it doesn't translate to some of the 45-pound hubs. So that's why my goal is to kind of work my way around my gym. Like once I conquer another hub, move on to a more difficult one, keep moving.
And like nothing against like hub trainers. I think that they're good and they have their place.
Oh, they have their purpose.
How cooler does it look when it's a plate,
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because it's the history behind it. I say it all the time. Weights have a story, and it's the story behind it that I think is cool. So like the video I dropped recently, I do vintage weight plate reviews. It's like the most I don't want to say pointless, because there is a point to it. I like honoring the history of them, but it's the least profitable review videos possible. Review videos of companies that don't exist anymore. But so there's zero profit in it, but I find it fun. So I do the same way as some influencers out there do a review of new equipment. I do a review of old equipment. So my most recent one was this Power Master plates from Pittsburgh, and they're some of my favorites. They're 4 spokes. It's probably not visible on camera because they're like directly behind me on the wall, but I use them at least 2-3 times a week. I love them. And the thing about them that's I think is cool, and I want to hub lift them, is that when I got them, the hubs were covered in chalk. Like clearly the gentleman that I bought them off of, like that was something that he did like for decades before they ever got to me. So I just thought that was cool that like someone was like, hub lifting these deep dish right here in my hometown for, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago, before I was even, seriously lifting weights. So when it comes to like a personal history or a company history, like you said, with some of these like really rare ones, it's cool just picking up a deep dish plate. That's why I like using them. Any new plates you've tried? Like, have you ever tried, hubbing some of the newer deep dish, like gotten your hands on like a Bells of Steel or a Rogue deep dish or anything like that?
Yeah, so the Rogue one, they have some at the one of the gyms I go to that I put on my contest. They have those, and those, as long as you get a little bit of chalk on them, then you're fine. They're not, I mean, they're difficult, but they're not too bad.
Okay.
So I've done that, and then I've like done like from the rim to the hub catch with those as well.
Gotcha. When the Shizzler Eagle heads are they're getting more and more popular. They're hard to find, but I'd like to see what you could do with them. That's for sure. So I'll have to check into some collectors I know out your way and see, like, can we even just loan this guy some Eagle heads? I want to see what you can do on it. Yeah. That'd be very cool. And as far as events, I've wondered in my head, like, I brought him up before, Tim Livingston, he's, flipping plates around. I thought that'd be an awesome event if you could get, even if it's just 2 guys side by side, here are your Marcy's, who can flip and catch them the most times? Right. Just go for it. Who can flip and catch them the most times before someone drops one, and just have a head-to-head competition. That'd be pretty awesome. I don't think there's enough people that can do it to have an event at the Shaw Classic, but if you and Tim are ever like geographically in the same area, please do it.
Right. Absolutely. No, it's like you said, that idea is so cool, of the different hubs and stuff like that. The tough part for like a contest, like say something like a King Kong, is you have to have implements that are essentially the same at whatever 12, 15 different locations across the world. So that's what tough versus like when they host like a nationals or different events like that where they can put in a medley where everyone's at the same location. Like that's so when they can do that. Like I know they do it in Canada. They'll have like 12 or 13 different implements that you got to go around and pick up.
Yeah, the medley
points for everyone. So stuff like that's really cool. Like something I hope to like have some kind of medley in there, you know, where there's like a York mill back and then there's some thick bar stuff. So there's going to be a vast array of different implements that are just not for guys with really long fingers, but also like a good pinch as well. So
hey, if you need some deep dish, I'll let you borrow them for the Shaw Classic. Just get a nice crash cushion at least underneath them. You know, right. I don't want them coming back in pieces, but yeah. I wouldn't mind sending them down there, or I guess over there, Colorado, I believe, Shaw. So yeah, that would be cool. I think for an individual contest, that would be really cool. I know that Jed Johnson and Grip Sport International, their nationals that they have, there was a medley this past year that was pretty cool, and I forget exactly how it ran, but basically every athlete brought something, a feat, if you will, that and the rule was they had to be able to perform that. So you couldn't just bring some impossible thing and throw it in there. Like you had to perform it. And then I think they got a point for each one in the medley they were able to successfully lift.
Yeah. No, I like them.
So I think that's cool that like each athlete kind of brought their weapon of choice, you know? Right. So that was kind of cool setup. But when it comes to something as huge as the Shaw Classic, I mean, that's like a small arena, right? That it's held in. So that's a massive amount of people coming in and out. So I wonder what you can put together next year. Are you already kind of getting some ideas flowing? You don't have to say any too specific, or are you just kind of recovering from this year?
A little bit of both. I'm starting to get like the wheels turning of different things. Like I said, I thought like a medley, what you could have in it. I like anvils would be super cool.
Oh yeah, that's classic.
Those down, so like how we talked about tracking down different things, is going to find one that's actually like got a good horn on it.
So expensive. Like it blew me away when I started looking for anvils, because I thought, oh, that's cool. Like, and then I of course I enjoy strength history, so I started going down the road of researching it. And I mean, I could go on for 3 hours about the strongmen, what they did with anvils and things over the years, but there's a rich history there. And then actually I brought him up already, but John Oka, Jokabug, my favorite Instagram name, Jokabug, lazy old fucker. He has such a good knowledge of anvils because he does a lot of metalwork and things and welding and various stuff and building his tools. And I've shot him questions before, like, hey, this anvil's for sale. It's like $2 a pound near me. Is that worth it? And he'll shoot back like, oh no, that's horrible. Or like, yeah, this is great. So just like I did a heavy dive into vintage weights, there are people that are really knowledgeable on anvils and which ones are collectible and which ones aren't, and which ones have a good horn and which ones, you know, might have a crack at this area. And it gets expensive. I mean, there's anvils listed near me for over $1,000 depending on their weight. So because I was thinking, man, it'd be cool to get like something not too crazy, like 60, 70 pounder, and have it in my gym. And that would just be kind of my feat of strength. You could farmer carry it. You could try to grip the horn. So that would be a spectacle too, like we're saying before. I mean, I would love that.
Very visual event, so people can kind of get an idea of, wow, like that. It just looks heavy.
Totally. And I mean, you could easily mark like their weight in big, large numbers on each one so that people could see like, whoa, they're up to like 120 pound anvil or whatever it is.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. That's the biggest thing, is just some of them are like $1,000, 2,000. Just,
and it's a lot. Actually, in terms of trying to give like an homage to strength history, I'll look it up after the episode and I'll make sure I reach out to you. So listeners, don't like fry me. Don't come after me if I get this completely wrong, but I believe it was Herman Gorner. Supposedly there's a lot of like skepticism, but supposedly I think he like lifted by the horn and cleaned an anvil, something like that. I'll look it up, but I'll have it. I have one of his biographies sitting right behind me in my book collection. So yeah, I'll send you an email. But it'd be cool to have some type of kind of like strength history homage to this like diddy not kind of lift back in the day.
Right. No, yeah, the ammos are so cool, man. Like, because there's such long history. I mean, people have been using
Yeah.
it for 100 years to,
Yeah.
forge things, make things. So,
Yeah. Well, think about in terms of like just arm strength and just brute strength. I mean, if you were working with your hands like that, you were probably a strong individual. So then, it makes sense that you start kind of messing around like, hey, I bet you I can pick this up. I'll throw down $1 on that. Let's see, So I would guess that's kind of where some of it came from. So then big moves coming up. How you mentioned that you managed to convince your wife to set up this home gym. How without getting too personal, I know you have a wife and children, you're a family man. How's the family feel about this adventure? How's it sitting with them so far?
they're pretty nervous. I
Yeah.
guess that's the way to say it.
Yeah.
The kids are young. My son's 7 and my daughter's 2, so they don't
Okay.
understand too much. So I'll fly back and forth for a while
Mhm.
until everything's kind of settled and we get things figured out. If we want to move everyone out there, so that will be a big decision down the road. But yeah, they're pretty nervous about being gone all the time. But the goal is for her to work a lot less and be home with them more,
Yeah.
and get more family time. But minus me being there every weeknight. But that's part of it. Hopefully
Yeah.
the goal is to work to them eventually move there with me, hopefully, and the sky's the limit for what I think Brian can do post retirement with so many different avenues. So I think we can only grow together, and it's going to benefit me as well. So
Yeah, I think it's not a question of, oh man, he's retired. What's he going to do now? It's more like, what else is he going to do? Which avenue is he going to take? Is he going to go, full throttle down this podcasting, broadcasting? Is he going to promoting? The Shaw Classic's been so successful, at least from the outside looking in, it looks extremely successful. So yeah, I'm very curious to see, because there's so many strength athletes, I think, over the years that unfortunately don't make that much money in their careers, even though they might be one of the best. And then you kind of wonder, oh, geez, what are they going to do now? But I think he has the potential to just be be the best at whatever he pursues. So it'll be cool to see that, and it'll be really cool to see the role that you play in that along the way. I think it's exciting. That's really cool. I didn't know that coming into this episode, so it's been fun to kind of talk about it with you.
yeah, no, so I was out there a little over 2 weeks ago now, and
Yeah.
we did videos. Like I said, there's still one coming out that they're going to do, but we just had talked about it, just the different things we can do together, and then we kind of just figured out how to get me out there,
Yeah.
and just what's today, Monday, so just Friday we kind of agreed on everything, give my notice at work, so it hasn't sunk in yet.
Yeah, that's fresh.
Real, so, but no, I obviously, like, trying to sleep right now is tough because it's like, what are we gonna do? And so,
imagine.
it's real exciting.
Hey, I mean, yeah, I imagine the wheels are turning. As soon as you mentioned it, I started thinking like, oh man, he just named like 8 different things he's going to be doing. Like, so I wonder like which thing is this? But I think, I never would have guessed that a couple years ago I'd be hosting these podcasts and talking to people and getting this deep into strength history and talking to people about their strength history. So you never know where it's going to take you and where things are going to end up. And if you're going to hitch your horse to someone, Brian Shaw, he could do far worse. He's the man. So yeah, I think that's very cool.
The real exciting part is, like, I really think it's going to help the sport of grip so much.
Yes.
I feel like Juji kind of helped it a bunch there, like
Sure.
with his course. And now you put more of like a strength athlete following of Brian's are going to get more and more in-depth stuff from Brian with doing grip stuff, and then me kind of doing it with them and stuff like that. So I think it's really going to help the sport.
Well, I think it's like I mentioned earlier on the show, in terms of growing the sport, finding competitions that are also fun to watch on that kind of level on a live stream is also like it's a little bit different than just, trying to round up as many people as you can in your local area to get involved. And like, hey, because I'm hosting King Kong, for example, so I'm putting out like, hey, anyone in Pittsburgh, and by the way, I'll just say it right now because this will drop before then. Anyone in Pittsburgh, you can stop by the Vintage Weights PGH gym and mess around with whatever weights you want, feats of strength after the competition, and compete right here. And yeah, I've got, I think, 4 people right now coming by. So I'm pretty happy with that. I'll take it. But there's no spectators other than like my 4 kids. They're going to be bopping in and out to see what the heck's going on in the basement. That's about it. So I think trying to find those spectacles, trying to, think about things is a really cool mind space to be in. And that'll be really fun. And hey, if you need a historian, you know who to call. I can help you out on any of those avenues. I already jotted it down I'm going to double check if it was Gorner with the anvil or not, and I'll email you. So yeah. I'm really excited to see what you come up with, and not just the Shaw Classic, but just with, whatever you're doing, and, your posts with your various hub lifts. So thanks so much for coming on, Joel. I really appreciate your time.
No, absolutely, man. I appreciate having me. I admire your knowledge for weights and all that stuff like that. I think it's so cool. It's always so cool with the like-minded people, and I'm learning so much. And so my appreciation for weights is just right up there with you right now.
Hey, that means a lot. And real quick, tell listeners where they can find you if they're not already following you.
Sure. So Instagram, it's just Joel Dircks, Dircks, on pretty much everything. Instagram, TikTok's a big one for me as well. So those 2 are probably the big platforms to check out what my videos.
Cool. I'll drop direct links in the description for those listeners, or you can just search Joel Dircks, Dircks. And once again, thanks so much to Plate Snacks for sponsoring this episode. You can head to platesnacks.com and use code VINTAGE to customize your gym and make it your gym. This has been Rob from Vintage Weights PGH for this episode of Lift History. Thanks for watching.